The purpose of my videos is to make classics and ancient history interesting and accessible to everyone. It is important to highlight that I am not a professional or qualified educator, expert, historian or classicist. However, I ensure that all the information I use in my video scripts has been collated from numerous credible sources, which is accessible online. The images depicted in the video are artistic representations and do not reflect the actual appearance of the building or the people during ancient times. They are intended to visually illustrate my own interpretations and descriptions of historical events and settings. There might be mispronounced words throughout this videos. Please do not rely on my video for an authoritative or reliable source of how to pronounce certain words. I always work my hardest to deliver thoroughly researched and reliable information in my videos, but please always conduct additional, independent research to formulate a thorough understanding of any topic discussed. Once the largest library in the ancient world, and containing works by the greatest thinkers and writers of antiquity, including Homer, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, Herodotus, and many more. The Library of Alexandria was located in northern Egypt, on the southern coast of the Mediterranean. The library was popularly believed to have been destroyed in a huge fire around 2,000 years ago, caused by Julius Caesar, and its voluminous works were lost. Alexander the Great founded the city of Alexandria in Egypt, at the northwestern end of the Nile Delta around 330 BC, and like many other cities in his empire, it took its name from him. Alexander the Great envisioned that Alexandria will be the capital of knowledge and learning. But following the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC, his empire was divided among his generals. One of them, Ptolemy I Soter, became the ruler of Egypt, and established his capital at Alexandria. Under his reign and the reign of his descendants, the city grew into one of the greatest and most prosperous cities of the Hellenistic period from 323 BC to 30 BC. The city was then a thriving commercial hub and Mediterranean seaport. The library was not yet built when Alexander the Great died. Ptolemy I controlled Egypt and set Alexandria as the capital of Egypt, and said to lay the groundwork of the library, with the help of an Athenian named Demetrius of Phalerum. The earliest known details about the founding of the library is from the pseudepigraphic letter of Aristes, which was composed between 180 BC and 145 BC. Demetrius of Phalerum proposed constructing a building to house all the world's known manuscripts. Demetrius' grand design was to erect a place of learning that would rival Aristotle's famous Lyceum, a school and library near Athens. Some said that it housed scrolls somewhere between 40,000 and 400,000, perhaps equivalent to roughly 100,000 books or more. The Library of Alexandria was able to increase its collection of books in several ways. One of the most important methods was through the acquisition of books from all over the ancient world. They expand the library's collections through an aggressive and well-funded policy of book purchasing. They dispatched royal agents with large amounts of money and ordered them to purchase and collect as many texts as they possibly could, about any subject and by any author. Older copies of texts were favored over newer ones, since it was assumed that older copies had undergone less copying, and that they were therefore more likely to more closely resemble to what the original author had written. This program involved trips to the book fairs of Rhodes and Athens. There was also a decree of Ptolemaic that any books found on ships that came into port were taken to the library, where they were copied by official scribes. The original texts were kept in the library, and the copies delivered to the owners. The library particularly focused on acquiring manuscripts of the Homeric poems, which were the foundation of Greek education and revered above all other poems. The library therefore acquired many different manuscripts of these poems, tagging each copy with a label to indicate where it had come from. The collection at the library became so vast that a daughter library was established. This library was situated in the precincts of the Temple of Serapis, in the Egyptian district of Rhodes, in the southeastern part of the city. During the librarianship of the Greek writer Callimachus around 305 BC to 240 BC, the daughter library contained 42,800 scrolls, all of which were copies of those in the main library. The librarians. It is impossible to list all the scholars who worked at the Library of Alexandria, as many of their names have been lost to history. However, here are some of the most notable scholars who are known to have worked at the library during its existence. The first recorded head librarian was Zenodotus of Ephesus, who lived around 325 BC to 270 BC. Zenodotus' main work was devoted to the establishment of canonical texts for the Homeric poems and the early Greek lyric poets. Apollonius of Rhodes was also appointed as head of the library. Apollonius of Rhodes is best known as the author of the Argonautica, an epic poem about the voyages of Jason and the Argonauts. Eratosthenes of Cyrene, he is best known for being the first person known to calculate the circumference of the Earth, which he did by using the extensive survey results he could access in his role at the library. His calculation was remarkably accurate. Aristophanes of Byzantium. Aristophanes was also known for his work as a grammarian and lexicographer, and he is said to have compiled a dictionary of Homeric Greek. He was one of the first scholars to make use of diacritical marks or accent marks to indicate the correct pronunciation of Greek words, which was an important development in the study of ancient languages. Apollonius Idographus. He was called Idographus or the classifier because he classified lyric poems based on their musical modes. Apollonius also made important contributions to the study of conic sections, which are the shapes that are formed when a plane intersects a cone. He is best known for his work on the ellipse, hyperbola, and parabola, which are three of the most important conic sections. Aristarchus of Samothrace. Aristarchus is best known for his work as a textual critic and commentator on the works of Homer. He is credited with developing a system of critical signs and symbols that were used to identify and correct errors in Homeric manuscripts. His critical edition of the Homeric texts was widely regarded as the authoritative version for many centuries. Callimachus. He is credited with developing a system of classification for books that was used in the Library of Alexandria, which allowed scholars to find and organize works more easily. He also wrote a treatise on the history of Greek literature, which was one of the first works of literary criticism in the ancient world. Euclid. He is best known for his influential work Elements, which is considered one of the most important mathematical treatises in history. Archimedes. He was one of the first mathematicians to use infinitesimals in his work, and he is credited with discovering the relationship between the volume and surface area of a sphere. He also developed a method for approximating the value of pi, which is still used today. Hypatia. Hypatia was a highly respected scholar and teacher, and she became the head of the Neoplatonic school in Alexandria, which was based at the Library of Alexandria. She was known for her lectures on mathematics, philosophy, and astronomy, and her students included both pagans and Christians. Hipparchus. He is often considered to be the founder of trigonometry, and he made many important contributions to the field of astronomy. Hipparchus's most notable accomplishments was his development of a system for cataloging the positions and movements of the stars. He created a catalog of over 1,000 stars, which included their positions and brightness, and he also developed a system for measuring the brightness of stars that is still used today. Herophilus. Herophilus is known for his many contributions to the field of medicine, particularly in the areas of anatomy and physiology. He was one of the first physicians to perform systematic dissections of human cadavers, and he identified many of the organs and structures of the body, including the brain, liver, spleen, and kidneys. Erasistratus. Erasistratus is known for his many contributions to the field of medicine, particularly in the areas of anatomy and physiology. He was one of the first physicians to recognize that the veins and arteries are separate systems, and he also studied the nervous system and the organs of the body. The exact cause of the destruction of the Library of Alexandria is not known with certainty, and there are various theories about how it may have been destroyed. Here are some of the most commonly proposed explanations. Fire. The most commonly cited explanation for the destruction of the Library of Alexandria is that it was destroyed by fire. There are several accounts of fires at the library, with the most famous being the one described by the Roman historian Pliny the Elder. According to Pliny, the library was accidentally set on fire by Julius Caesar's troops during his conquest of Alexandria in 48 BCE. Religious conflict. Another theory is that the library was destroyed as a result of religious conflict. Alexandria was a center of learning and culture for centuries, and it was home to many different religious and philosophical schools. There were often tensions between these groups, and it is possible that the library was targeted in the course of such conflicts. Decay and neglect. Some scholars argue that the library may have simply fallen into disrepair and been neglected over time. The library was an enormous institution with a vast collection of books and manuscripts, and it may have been difficult to maintain and preserve all of its holdings. Conquest and plunder. It is also possible that the library was destroyed as a result of conquest and plunder. Alexandria was conquered and sacked by various armies over the centuries, and it is possible that some of these invaders took the library's books and manuscripts for themselves or destroyed them in the course of their conquests. It is likely that a combination of factors contributed to the destruction of the Library of Alexandria, and the truth may never be fully known. What is clear, however, is that the loss of this great repository of knowledge was a major blow to the intellectual and cultural heritage of humanity. Since no architectural remains of the Library of Alexandria have been definitively identified. The exact location and appearance of the library is a matter of debate among scholars, and it is difficult to say with certainty what the library looked like or how it was constructed. However, there are some accounts that describe the library as a massive complex of buildings, with lecture halls, reading rooms, and storage areas for the collection of scrolls. It is believed that the library held hundreds of thousands of scrolls and books, covering a wide range of topics in literature, philosophy, science, and other fields of knowledge. There are many references to the ancient Library of Alexandria in historical and literary sources from the ancient world. Here are some examples. The historian Plutarch wrote in his Life of Caesar that Julius Caesar accidentally set fire to the library during his siege of Alexandria in 48 BC. The Roman poet Lucan described the library in his epic poem Pharsalia, writing that it contained all the wisdom of the world. The Roman scholar and naturalist Pliny the Elder wrote about the library in his Natural History, describing it as a vast repository of knowledge and learning. The Greek geographer Strabo wrote in his Geography that the library held over 700,000 scrolls, which were housed in multiple buildings. The Roman historian Ammianus Marcellinus wrote in his Residential Gesti that the library was one of the most impressive sights in Alexandria, and that it attracted scholars and visitors from all over the world. These are just a few examples of the many references to the Library of Alexandria in ancient sources. Despite the fact that the library itself no longer exists, its legacy continues to inspire scholars and thinkers to this day.